Hi there, it's Karen here at Corrie Paper Crafts, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in central Scotland, and I thought I would share some dinosaurs with you today in the form of a gift bag. I originally made this as a kiddie's treat bag or gift bag, but to be honest, I'd be quite happy to get this as a gift as well. But given that we're still in coronavirus lockdown at the minute, I thought it would be a nice idea to have a little treat bag where you could give some kids a little treat at the end of the week, or for doing really well with their schoolwork, being homeschooled, or just a treat for a Friday after a hard week's work, or whatever you want to use it for, or indeed once we're out of lockdown as a party gift bag as well. So it's quite a sizable bag. It uses a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, and I use the full 12 by 12 sheet, so I'm going to show you how I made it. I'm using the Dinoroar designer series paper and the Dino Days stamp set. Now the paper is retiring when we change over to the new catalogue at the beginning of June, but thankfully the stamp set and the dies are not retiring, so they are going to carry on, but they are fast becoming quite a favourite of mine. Once I stamped and used the dies, I kind of fell in love with how they go together. So I'm going to show you how I made it. So I'm going to pop this bag over to the side just now, and I thought this time round, instead of the big dinosaurs here, we'd use the sheet with the smaller dinosaurs on it, and it's got quite a nice pattern on the back as well, but I like the volcanoes on here. So we're going to start off with a bit of scoring, and apologies for any glare from my lights. I'll try and keep the scoreboard where the glare won't hit the top of here. So depending on the direction of your pattern, because you're using the full 12 by 12 sheet, these first lot of score lines are going to go across the bag, so have your paper, your directional paper, up and down the way, if that makes sense, to do these particular score lines. So you're going to score at 4 inches, 5 3/4, 9 3/4 and 11 1/2, and then turn it clockwise and score at 1 3/4, and then without rotating, flip the paper over. So you've gone from doing that score line here, and you're just flipping the paper over that way, and then you're going to score at 10 1/2, and that's all the scoring done. So then we just need to fold and burnish on all those score marks. There's my paper creaser, here we go. It's hard to see the lines on that pattern on the back. It's quite a busy pattern, but I do like it. As I say, this paper, I'll turn it this way, Karen. This paper is retiring, but I think I'll be getting some extra before it does, and just keep it in my personal stash. Now it's still in stock at the time of filming, and I'm filming this on Sunday the, gosh, is it the 4th, 5th, 3rd of May? I have completely lost track of what day's what. So I'm actually going to fold the larger panel. That was where I scored at 1 3/4 on the left hand side of my scoreboard. I'm going to fold this the same way as we would normally fold, and the same as I've just done with all the other ones. But the score line where I flipped it over, that was because we're actually going to fold this part in the opposite direction. So that's why I did that score line differently. So when the bag comes together, that's where you have this little turned over part at the top. So before I do anything else, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some tearing tape onto this flap here. I'll just grab it out. I've been tidying my craft room today, so I've put everything away. It's not like me. And then I'm just going to make sure that I get my tearing tape close to that fold but not right on it. And I'm just going to put 2 or 3 pieces of tape along here, particularly on this straight edge here. There we go, and I'm just going to add an extra one in the middle to make sure that flap stays stuck down, especially when I fold and reinforce all these creases as well. So I'm just going to reinforce this crease here, and then I'm going to take off the backing on all of these long pieces here. And then I'm just going to make sure I fold that down flat, and then before I do anything else I'm just going to reinforce these folds as well. There we go, and this one, just to make that paper fold over double rather than a single thickness. Just be careful that you don't press too hard on the actual fold, because you risk just breaking the fibres in your paper. And then this one here, just at the end. Okay, so any pieces of tape that are overhanging, I'm just going to, now let me think, I'm going to fold them round that way, because this part here is going to join onto here, so I want that tape to the inside. So I'm going to do a bit of cutting now. And on the bottom here you've got this thin rectangle here, there's the score line and there's the score line there. So I'm going to remove that completely and just notch here. And this is actually going to be the flap that joins my bag together. I'm not going to notch the top. If I need to trim it once I've put my bag together, I will, but I don't want to cut that part, so I'm just going to leave it. So then we've got 2 smaller squares here and the larger rectangles, so I'm just going to cut up beside the score line, keeping the straight edge on my rectangle, and notch a little bit on either of these flaps, which you've seen I'm sure many times before, but in case you are new and you've not done any paper crafting before, then it doesn't do any harm to go over that again. So straight edge on the rectangles, because they're going to be on the outside of the box, so you're removing the score line onto these smaller squares here and just notch either side. So this is what you're left with once you're finished. So we've got the narrow strip here for joining the bag together, and then our 4 bits here. So I'm going to, the front flap is a flap that comes over last to make your box look a bit neater once it's put together. So I'm going to just add a couple of pieces of tearing tape straight away to that flap here. I'm just putting a couple just in case of any weight that's popped in the bag, and then I'm going to turn it over, and I'm just going to add a little bit of tape to both of these smaller flaps here, just to hold them down once the bag's actually closed. Give them a little bit of a burnish like that. And then last bit, I just want to put some tearing tape along this edge here, near the fold but not on it. And I think I maybe bopped the camera just a second ago, so apologies for that. Okay, so I'm going to just take this off here, and I'm actually going to just add an extra little bit of tearing tape onto here, because I've kind of cut it a bit short and I wanted it right up to the edge, just to make sure that top edge does stay together. So I'm just going to take the backing off of that little bit there. That's it. And then fold that flat and fold this side over, and it should all match up perfectly. So that's the bag put together that way. And then I'm going to remove the backing from my two side flaps here, and then I'm just going to put those in and fold the back flap in, and that'll let the front flap come over too. But first of all, just going to make sure those side flaps are stuck to the back flap. Take these off, and that's the bag made. So all I want to do is just pop my fingers in here, give it a squeeze, and make sure that my corners line up like so. And you'll get a bit of resistance, which if you want it to be like that, that's fine. But because I'm going to put a bit of ribbon around my bag, I'm just going to run my fingers down here and flatten it a little bit more, because my ribbon's actually going to go around here underneath this coloured section. So I'm just going to grab a little bulldog clip rather, to hold my bag together until I pop my ribbon round. And I'm actually using the granny apple green, what is this called? The textured weave ribbon. Couldn't think what it was called there. I've got a glue dot just to hold it together and stop it unravelling, so I'll just take that off. This ribbon is retiring, so again, if it's a ribbon that you like, then I would order it as soon as you can. And I'm just leaving enough to be able to tie a bow, so about there. So I'm glad to be using this ribbon up, although again it's a ribbon that I really like. So because I'm not tying it round the very top of the bag, I've got a bit of room to be able to just manoeuvre my ribbon around and then be able to press on it with my finger to tie my bow. And I like this ribbon, it's easy to work with as well. It comes in granny apple green and in grey granite, and for those of us that can't tie very good bows, it's quite a forgiving ribbon. So because it's a big and bold pattern, I want a kind of big and bold bow on the front as well. So I think that'll do me there. So just trim a little bit here and a little bit here. Take the clip off and then just gently let the bag come back into shape and manoeuvre my bow a little bit as well. So that's my bag made. So now for a little bit of stamping, which I've actually done in advance. So on this bag here, I've stamped my dinosaur and his stickles for his back, and actually the egg is from the die set, which I'm going to show you just in a minute. I got a bit tongue-tied there, I'm not sure why. So I'm using this dinosaur here and the stickles for his back here, and I've actually stamped them in advance, but I'll show you the colours that I've used. So on my original bag here, I used granny apple green for my dinosaur and lovely lipstick for his stickles on his back. Lovely lipstick is one of our 2018 to 20 in colours, so that is going to be retiring. Lovely lipstick, Pineapple Punch, Grapefruit Grove, Blueberry Bushel, and what is the fifth one called? Call Me Clover. Those are the 5 in colours that are going to be retiring, and I'm a bit sad to be losing Lovely Lipstick because it really is a nice colour. So those are the colours that I used for my dinosaur, and I stamped my Your Rorsum in Pool Party. So this time round what I've done is I've changed it a little bit, and I've used the Pool Party to stamp my wee dinosaur, and still stuck with the Lovely Lipstick for his stickles for his back, and I've die cut the egg, and I'm just going to stamp my Your Roarsome on camera. But just to quickly show you the dies, which are also carrying over alongside the stamp set, but if I remember rightly they won't be carrying over as a bundle. You'll be buying them separately. So here's my egg here, which is trying to escape, and I've used this die here to cut out my dinosaur, and this is the die that cuts out his stickles for his back as well. And my egg is not wanting to stay stuck. So those are the dies. I'm really pleased that those are carrying on. So I've already got my Your Roarsome stamp mounted. No, I'm not using Pool Party, I'm using Granny Apple Green. And to save me worrying about trying to stamp straight, I just resorted to offsetting it a little bit and just making the claim that that was implied or intended, and it saves me worrying about whether or not it's straight. And then to stick my dinosaur together, all I need to do is just add a little bit of glue down this part here, because the dies allow, oops, that's a little bit much, I keep forgetting this is a new bottle. The dies allow that little bit extra so that you can stick it onto your dinosaur. I'm just trying to spread out those thicker bits of glue because I don't want them to come squishing out. Certainly not to the front of the dinosaur. I don't mind if they stick out at the back. And then I'm just going to add my dinosaur. You'll see that there's a bit of a gap here, and that's a gap just so that you can get his wee arm in there. So I'm just going to manoeuvre that a little bit to make more space for his arm. There we go, quite happy with that. Just press it down. And then all I did was I kind of looked at where I wanted to stick him on the egg, and I just made sure that I popped a little bit of glue close to the edge of the egg without going too far over, and I stuck my dinosaur down onto that like so. There we are. And then I popped some dimensionals onto the back of my egg and stuck it to my bag. 1, 2 and 3. Oops, an extra one there. There we are. And I just popped it somewhere on the front, on the lower part of my bag, and that's my bag made. I think those are really quite pretty. They're bright and cheerful, and you could put any kind of gift in there. I know that I've got some kids that I help to look after at an event that we do at our sailing club, and I've got things like pirate notebooks and pirate pencils and things. So activity books or treats, things like that, would look really nice inside this bag. So see what you think. It's quite roomy. Tell me if you want to, if you make it, and what treats you've popped inside. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I'd love it if you'd give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe too if you're not already. And until I see you next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.